these basalts or spilites, sodic altered basalts that make up the core of the Gamilaroi terrane, or the Tamworth group. And within them we've got these occasional blocks of limestone, and I guess one of the questions was whether they were big liths sort of slumped in, or whether they're part of the island arc, the limestone sort of developed around the volcanic centres within the island arc. But these are Devonian, is early the spilites.
I think so,
Yeah. Early or Devonian in age, and so we're moving into I guess the oldest parts of the New England and the core of the Gamilaroi terrane, this island arc terrane that was possibly accreted onto Gondwana during the late Devonian. So I think on the contact here there's some nice examples of basalt that's mixed in with the limestone here, a piece of fossils in amongst it, and maybe more of a conformable contact.
Or intrusive.
But you'll notice that a lot of the beds are intrusive.
Yeah.
A lot of the beds are vertically dipping here, as opposed to what you would have seen yesterday afternoon out in the Tamworth belt. And we passed through what was the formation, Peter? Sorry? Yarramie Formation on the way through. There's a nice cutting as we went through this little antimony mine, Yarramie Formation, and now we're into the Folly spilite. So, do you want to say anything about this, Peter or Jonathan?
No. I'm just trying to remember about this stuff. This is like all 16 years ago.
Yeah,
so, but basically down this part of, sort of as we follow along the trace of the Peel Fault here, we're on the western side of the Peel Fault, yeah? And yeah, yeah. So we passed Yarramie Formation as we're coming up, so we've got reasonably deep marine sediments there. They're mostly sort of, I guess, distal turbidite type things. Most of them are tuff turbidites. They've got radiolarians within them that in some places we can get good fossils out of and date, but not around here. That seemed to be my luck around here anyway. Yeah. And then as we come up through the sequence, we get evidence that we've got basalts being erupting, the sort of back arc basin signatures of the basalts that we've got here. Yeah, that's probably about all I can say about these things. Yeah.
It's worth pointing out that in the earlier literature there was the expression there was a Cambrian to Carboniferous sequence that was more or less conformable and a few changes within it. But the work that Jonathan did showed that this lower Devonian part and into the Silurian is probably an inter-oceanic island arc. Now that was published from a specialist 96, 94 specialist publication of Geolsoc London, but mostly Australian geologists don't read that. And so you will still see in the literature here the belief that you've got this long-lived subduction complex with the magmas evolving to more the acidic end with geological time. But there's a lot of fallacies in the New England geology, and this is one. That's why it's worth pulling up here to show you.
I guess the key is that we're further east of the more continental arc rocks that you were looking at yesterday. Yeah. So either if it was one long-lived subduction zone, then it's migrated eastwards, or it was an arc that's formed outboard of Gondwana at the time and then been accreted on, and you had
so if you're trying to place them into sequence, yesterday we looked at the Cuttung arc, which we mentioned had disappeared out of the literature for about 2 decades. This is the Baldwin arc. But because of this terminology, confusion between lithostratigraphic units and stratotectonic units and topographic units, it's all mixed up. Is it the Tamworth belt, the Tamworth group, or the Tamworth arc? Or, but so maybe over the next few days at New England you'll get a clearer understanding as to what the terminologies are when they're used and how they should relate to certain things.
Do you know what the polarity of this arc was? Was it facing east or facing west?
Well, I guess when we wrote our paper at the time, we suggested that perhaps it was a west-facing arc above an east-dipping subduction zone. So the model that we had looked, it was like a kind of Taiwan-based model where we have a subduction flip as you accrete this kind of stuff. And as we go to the east here today, out to Barry Station, we actually get into some of the more felsic rocks of the arc. So, yeah.
Do the felsic rocks succeed to meeting?
No, actually, no, they're older. Yeah, we've got an arc rifting episode. This is a sort of late rifting episode within the arc. The felsic rocks are late Silurian.
And yet you want it as an oceanic arc, a pile of felsites. So you've got a pile of felsitic rocks, and yet you say you still think it's an oceanic arc.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like in the Easy Bone and Mariana system. We've got lots of piles and piles of felsic material there as well. And the felsic material in the bonans forms before the arc rifting episode when we get the basalts being erupted there. So,
In the field notes, there's a diagram taken out of that paper, if I can just find it so you get a handle on it.
Also, the subduction boundary moves eastward from the Macquarie arc site.
In the
Your
notes,
division for here.
page 73 is the suggestion that the eastern margin of Gondwana, which is the Loxon Tenchu Plateau, with the Gamilaroi arc here with subduction going that way. Then there's arc rifting that brings in some of these more basaltic things and so forth. And then that arc collides with the margin, and then the one that you'll see on Wednesday on the Bingra-Baraba trip will be the Carboniferous subduction zone. Now, in one of the papers, was it Robin Offler and Cess Murray in the volume, you'll read it, they have double directed subduction, one going east, one going west, and so forth.
That causes problems.
Yeah.
We'll have to abduct it over a spreading centre.
Oh, we might have subducted the spreading centre. Anything's possible.
I have just a question about that model.
Yeah.
Is it really that easy to get the continental crust under the arc, because it's supposed to be...
No, it'll be lighter.
Yeah, so it has to be very hard, but you're actually abducting the entire arc on top of the continental margin.
Well, it might have just collided. Yeah.
I guess that's the way you preserve arcs, rather than subduct them and have them melt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like ophiolite sheets,
Yeah.
250 kilometres out.
Yeah. And we'll see the ophiolites at the next stop at Barry that are older again than the Gamilaroi terrane arc. They're Cambrian in age. Yeah.
And that's the problem with this geology. It is extremely complicated geology, and you need a model to interpret the stuff, and then you have to go back and change your model.
You iterate.
Yeah, it's a process, yeah.
complicated by having bugger all exposure.
That doesn't help.
It frees you up.
Yeah.
Actually, I have found, working on perfectly exposed rocks for the last 15 years, that it's a nuisance having too much exposure. Yeah? You've got to try and explain everything.
Yeah, I know.
No degrees of freedom.